What if I told you that the very moment you were born, the odds were already stacked against you, yet somehow you made it? Not just to today, not just through school, heartbreak, disappointment, or whatever chaos life has thrown at you so far, but through the literal fight to exist. You beat out millions to be here. That wasn't a metaphor. That's biology. That's fact. You won before you even opened your eyes. So let me ask you, what happened? When did we start believing that winning was for other people? When did we decide that greatness belonged to the lucky few? Somewhere along the way, we started shrinking ourselves. We started apologizing for wanting more, for dreaming big, for standing tall. We began to live like survivors when we were born as warriors. Here's what no one tells you. You don't become a winner. You were born one. But life, real life, has a way of making you forget. It breaks you in places. It whispers lies when you're most tired. You're not good enough. You're too late. You should have known better. And most people believe it. Most people surrender. Quietly. Slowly. Without even realizing it. But not you. Not today. Because something in you knows the truth. It's been buried, maybe silenced, maybe even bruised, but it's still there. That fire still burns. That strength still intact. That voice in the back of your mind that says you were made for more. Listen to it. That voice is not your ego. That is your origin story, trying to wake you up. And today, we let it. Today, you stop waiting for permission. You stop making excuses. You stop calling survival enough. Today, you remember who the hell you are and what you were born to do. You were born to win, and it's time you started acting like it. Let's get something clear right now. You were not an accident. No matter what your past looks like, no matter who told you that you weren't enough, no matter how ordinary your life might seem on the surface, you were born for the fight. You didn't arrive on this planet by chance. You were not a glitch in the system, not a random combination of cells. You are here because you're supposed to be here, and that means something. The world will try to convince you otherwise. It will tell you that you're just one of billions, that your voice doesn't matter, that your dreams are too unrealistic, that maybe you should just play it safe, be quiet, fit in, settle, and sadly, a lot of people do just that. They shrink themselves to fit into a version of life that was never designed for them. Not because they're weak, but because they forget. They forget what they came from. They forget the war they already won just by being here. Because let's go all the way back. Before you even had a name, before you had a voice, you were already a fighter. Your life started as a competition against millions of others, and you won. You didn't arrive in this world as a victim. You arrived as a victor. Life didn't hand you a participation trophy. It handed you a mission. That mission to take what's inside of you and push it into the world loudly, boldly, unapologetically. But life has this way of layering pain on top of purpose. It throws hardship at you like it's testing whether or not you're serious. And maybe it is. Maybe that's the point. Maybe all the obstacles you faced weren't there to destroy you. They were there to reveal you, to call out what's been hiding inside of you all along. That grit, that discipline, that deep inner knowing that says, I was made for this even when things get ugly, even when they hurt. See, when you believe you're an accident, you start moving through life passively. You let other people define your worth. You let your past define your future. You let fear dictate your choices. You stop showing up like a warrior and start showing up like a shadow of yourself, always chasing, never creating, always reacting, never. But when you know deep in your bones that you were born for the fight, everything shifts. You stop asking, why me? And start declaring, try me. You stop searching for comfort and start searching for challenges. Because now you know what you're made of. Now you realize the pressure wasn't punishment, it was training. Your setbacks weren't the end. They were the initiation. That's what life does to those who are born to win. It tests them, it bends them, it builds them, brick by brick, moment by moment, failure by failure. And yes, you are in that process right now. Maybe you're in a season of silence, of waiting, of doubt. Maybe you're carrying the weight of disappointment, of feeling overlooked, of feeling like no one sees your effort. But hear this, the fight is still in you. Just because you're tired doesn't mean you're done. Just because it's hard doesn't mean you're not built for it. The difficulty is the point. It's the evidence that you are being shaped, not punished. Winners aren't born into perfect circumstances. They are born with a mindset, a quiet but unshakable refusal to quit. And the thing is, you don't have to wait to feel ready. You don't have to wait to feel fearless. You just have to decide. You have to choose the fight. Choose to rise. Choose to keep showing up when it's easier to disappear. Choose to believe in yourself when no one else does, because you know where you came from. You know what it took to even get this far. That's the thing about people who are born to win. They're not always loud. They're not always flashy. They don't always have the spotlight, but they have this energy, this unrelenting fire, this refusal to die with their potential still locked inside. They live every day like it matters, because it does. You don't get another shot at this life, and you weren't given this one so you could play small. You were born with a fight in your blood, a legacy in your name, and a responsibility to carry it forward. So the next time you doubt yourself, remember this: you've already proven what you're capable of. Not with your words, not with your resume, but with your existence. You are living, breathing evidence of resilience. A miracle wrapped in skin and bone, walking around like it's no big deal, but it is. You are, and it's time you started acting like it. The world doesn't need another passive observer. It needs someone who is willing to stand up and own their story. Someone who doesn't back down. Someone who remembers what they're made of when things get real. Someone who understands that the fight is not something to avoid, but something to embrace. Because when you embrace the fight, you stop feeling like an accident, and you start living like the force you were born to be. Discomfort isn't your enemy. It's not a curse, a punishment, or something to run from. It's the training ground for the life you say you want. And whether you realize it or not, everything meaningful, everything powerful, everything truly worth having comes with discomfort as the price of admission. But here's the problem. We've been sold the lie that if something is uncomfortable, it must be wrong. That ease is the goal. That happiness means everything feels good all the time. So when pain shows up, when the process stretches us, we flinch, we complain, we back off, and then we wonder why we feel stuck, why we aren't further along, why the dream still feels out of reach. What most people don't understand is that discomfort is required. It's the gate you walk through to reach your potential, and no one escapes it. You want strength? You go to the gym and put your body under pressure. You want discipline? You wake up early, when every fiber of your being wants to stay in bed. You want truth? You face the mirror and ask hard questions you've been avoiding. None of those things feel good in the moment, but they forge something inside you that pleasure never could. Discomfort is the price you pay to level up, and it's not there to punish you. It's there to reveal you. It pulls out the things you didn't know you were capable of, the endurance you didn't think you had, the courage you never thought you could summon, the patience you never knew you'd need. If you're always comfortable, you never meet those parts of yourself. You stay in the shallow end of your own life, wondering what it would be like to go deeper, but never diving in. The truth is, anything that transforms you will test you. There is no version of greatness that comes without pressure. Diamonds don't form without heat. Muscles don't grow without tension. And your character, your integrity, your resilience, those are shaped in fire, not comfort. So stop waiting for the process to get easier. Start getting stronger. Start shifting the way you see discomfort, because it's not a wall, it's a mirror. And when you stand in front of it long enough, it shows you exactly what you're made of. Discomfort doesn't mean you're on the wrong path. It usually means you're exactly where you need to be. That hard conversation you've been avoiding, that fear of putting yourself out there, that dream you keep pushing off because you don't want to fail, all of those things live in the territory of discomfort. And that's exactly where growth begins. But most people avoid discomfort. like it's toxic. They medicate it, numb it, escape it through distractions, social media, entertainment, busyness, anything to avoid sitting in that tension. But avoiding discomfort doesn't make it go away. It just delays the lessons you were meant to learn. It postpones the strength you were meant to build. And worst of all, it keeps you from becoming the person you were born to be. There's a reason why every warrior, every leader, every high performer has one thing in common. They know how to be uncomfortable. Not just tolerate it, but lean into it. They train in it. They live in it. They use it like fuel because they understand that you don't grow by chasing what feels good. You grow by facing what feels hard. That's the battlefield where confidence is born. That's where you earn self-respect, not by talking about what you want, but by walking through fire to get there. And let's be honest, some of the most powerful shifts in your life didn't come from ease. They came from the moments that broke you open. The job you lost, the relationship that ended, the opportunity that didn't work out. At the time, it felt like failure. But looking back, it was a refining process. It stripped away who you weren't so you could become who you are. Discomfort does that. It doesn't just change your situation, it changes you. It gives you edges, depth, weight, authority. It gives your words meaning, your presence power. The people who truly win in life aren't the ones who had it easy. They're the ones who showed up when it was hard, the ones who kept going when it didn't feel good, the ones who turned discomfort into discipline, into wisdom, into grit. And the best part, that's available to anyone, including you. But it starts with a decision to stop running from the things that make you sweat, shake, or feel afraid. A decision to show up for yourself, even when no one's watching. A decision to trust that pain is not the end, but the beginning. Because when you stop seeing discomfort as an enemy, you start seeing it as a teacher, one that pushes you, breaks you, builds you, and makes you unshakable. So don't pray for it to be easier. Pray to become better. Pray to develop the kind of mental and emotional strength that can handle anything. Because discomfort is not the end of you. It's the beginning of your next level, your next breakthrough, your next evolution. You weren't made for comfort. You were made for greatness. And greatness lives on the other side of discomfort. So walk into the fire. Stand in the storm. Let it shape you. Let it strengthen you. Because the life you want is waiting. And it's not hiding in the easy. It's hiding in the hard. Power is not given. It's taken. And if you're waiting for someone to hand you permission, opportunity, validation, or a seat at the table, you'll be waiting for the rest of your life. No one is going to walk up to you one day and say, "You're ready now. Here's everything you've ever wanted." That moment doesn't come. You create it. You step up and take it. But that's uncomfortable, isn't it? Because we've been conditioned to believe we have to earn our worth in someone else's eyes. That power belongs to the ones with titles, with money, with approval. So we fall into line. We follow rules we didn't write. We mute our voice. We play small, and then we wonder why we feel powerless. You were never meant to wait for power. You were meant to own it, to claim it, to reach into the depths of who you are and demand that the world take notice. Not by force, not by arrogance, but by the sheer strength of your conviction and consistency. Every single person you admire, every leader, every change maker, every legend at one point was exactly where you are. No followers, no resources, no guarantees. What they did have was a decision to stop being a spectator in their own life, to stop waiting for green lights from people who didn't even understand the vision. They made a choice to step into their power imperfectly and unapologetically. Taking power doesn't mean stealing or dominating. It means standing up when it would be easier to sit down, standing in rooms where you feel like you don't belong, but refusing to walk out. Standing for something even when it costs you. Because here's the truth, power doesn't come from what people give you. It comes from what you're willing to own about yourself. You don't have to wait to be chosen. You choose you. You choose to speak when it would be easier to stay silent. You choose to show up when quitting would be more convenient. You choose to keep going, even when no one's clapping. Because the moment you stop outsourcing your power is the moment everything changes. But we live in a world that trains people to be passive, to be polite, to wait their turn. Be patient, they say. Just keep your head down and work hard. Someone will notice. But what if they don't? What if the world never gives you the recognition you hoped for? Does that mean you weren't worthy? Absolutely not. It means it's time to stop waiting and start claiming what's yours. Power isn't loud. It's not always the one shouting the most or standing in the spotlight. Real power is quiet ownership. Just the way you walk into a room with your shoulders back and eyes focused, not because you think you're better, but because you know who you are. It's the way you hold boundaries, protect your energy, and make decisions rooted in your values, not your fears. When you wait for permission, you give your power away. Every time you hold back your ideas because you're afraid of what people might think. Every time you say yes when you really mean no. Every time you talk yourself out of trying because you're worried about failure. That's not humility, that's self-betrayal. And no one else can fix that but you. You want to know what taking power looks like? It looks like showing up before you feel ready. It looks like having the courage to be seen in your unfinished state. It looks like saying, this is who I am, this is what I want, and I'm not asking for your approval to go after it. Not everyone will like it. That's fine. Power doesn't need popularity, it needs purpose. When you stop trying to be liked and start trying to be real, you become dangerous. In the best way. You stop chasing and start creating. You stop reacting and start leading. And the world feels that shift. They may not understand it, but they'll feel it. That quiet force that says, I know what I bring to the table and I'm not afraid to eat alone. Understand this, nobody hands you influence. Nobody gives you confidence. Those things are forged. You take power every time you refuse to give up. Every time you set a new standard for your life. Every time you raise your voice and say, enough. That's how leaders are born, not in corner offices, not with perfect resumes, but in the trenches when you decide to stop being a passenger and grab the damn wheel. Power is choice. It's responsibility. It's ownership. And that scares a lot of people because it means there's no one left to blame. You can't point to your past. You can't point to your parents, your boss, your partner, or society. When you take your power back, you take full responsibility for your outcome, and that level of accountability is rare. But that's exactly why it's powerful. This world doesn't need more people waiting to be told what to do. It needs people who are bold enough to decide who they're going to be. It needs people who know that leadership is not a title, it's a mindset. It's how you show up every day, regardless of how you feel. It's how you treat people when no one's watching. It's how you walk through failure and still choose to believe in yourself. So if no one has told you lately, let me be the one. You don't need permission. You don't need to be chosen. You don't need someone to clear the way. You clear your own path. Because power is not inherited, it's not assigned, it's not granted, it's taken through action, through mindset, and through an unshakable belief in who you are becoming. So take it. Everything you want, every goal, every dream, every version of success is first won or lost in your mind. Before it ever shows up in the physical world, before anyone else sees it or believes it, you've already fought for it in your thoughts. That's why the battlefield is never just the world outside you, it's the war happening inside your head. If you can't master your mind, you'll never master your life. But if you do, you don't just play the game, you run. Your mind is your control center. Every decision, every action, every hesitation, every excuse, it all begins in your mental space. Most people walk around thinking they're in charge, but really they're being run by unconscious fears, insecurities, and patterns that were planted in them years ago. Maybe it was something a teacher said. Maybe it was a failure that left a scar. Maybe it was a parent who told you to be realistic. And without realizing it, those moments became beliefs. Silent rules, invisible wall. And now, anytime you try to step out, chase more, demand better, your mind pulls the emergency brake. Slow down, play it safe. Don't embarrass yourself. That's why mastering the mind is the most important work you will ever do. Because here's the truth, the mind will believe whatever you tell it most consistently. If you feed it doubt, it'll shrink. If you feed it fear, it'll freeze. But if you feed it discipline, focus, and intention, it will transform. It will become a weapon, a force, a compass that doesn't just respond to the world, it shapes it. The people who win in life aren't the ones who avoid fear. They're the ones who refuse to be led by it. Fear doesn't get a seat at their table. And even if it does, it doesn't get to drive. Because they've trained their mind to respond instead of react. They've built mental armor. They've stopped giving every emotion the power to steer the wheel. But let's be clear, mastering the mind is not about pretending to be fearless or positive all the time. That's delusion. This isn't about toxic positivity. It's about honesty. You see the fear, you acknowledge the doubt, and then you choose to move anyway. That's strength, that's power, that's mindset mastery. Your mind is like a muscle. It gets stronger the more you train it, and most people don't. They train their bodies, they train their skills, but they leave their mind unguarded, undisciplined, unchallenged. Then they wonder why they self-sabotage, why they procrastinate, why they feel like imposters even when they're capable. It's not ability they lack, it's mental conditioning. You need to program your mind on purpose. That means being intentional with what you consume, the people you listen to, the thoughts you allow to loop in your head every day. You don't get to just think whatever, because what you think becomes what you feel, and what you feel becomes what you do. The mind leads the body, always. So if your life feels off track, it's probably not your circumstances, it's your thinking. This is why mastering your morning matters. Why journaling matters, why meditation, silence, or prayer matters. It's not about routines, it's about taking ownership of your inner world. Because if you don't program it, the world will, and the world's program is fear, comparison, scarcity, distraction. It will convince you that you're behind, that you're not enough, that everyone else is doing better than you. That's noise, and you don't master the game by listening to noise. You master it by locking in, tuning out the chaos, and strengthening your mental core so deeply that nothing can shake you. People will try to talk you out of your vision. Life will throw curveballs you didn't see coming. You will fail. You will be misunderstood. But none of that breaks you if your mind is built like a fortress. If you've trained your brain to filter doubt, to challenge fear, to reframe setbacks as setups, that kind of mental power turns ordinary people into leaders, into forces, into legends. And the best part, it's not genetic, it's not a gift, it's a decision, a discipline. You get better at it the more you show up, the more you pause before reacting, the more you speak to yourself like a leader, not a victim. The more you ask, what's the story I'm telling myself right now? And is it even true? You'd be shocked how often the answer is no. That fear you're feeling, that self-doubt, it's often just a script you've been repeating for so long it feels real. But it's not. And you have the power to rewrite it. You want to master the game? You want to lead, build, dominate your lane? Then you start with the mind. Because talent without mindset is wasted. Opportunity without preparation is lost. Confidence without discipline is just ego. But when you own your mind, when you train it, strengthen it, and lead it, you can walk into any room, face any challenge, and know you are ready. You become unshakable, not because life is easy, but because your mind is equipped. So don't just work on your goals. Work on your thinking. Because the world doesn't hand the game to the smartest or the fastest. It gives it to the one who refuses to be mentally defeated. The one who wakes up every day and chooses clarity over confusion, focus over distraction, resilience over reaction. That person, that mindset, that's who wins. In a world obsessed with attention, there's something dangerous happening. We're trading impact for impressions. We're chasing validation instead of vision. We've been convinced that if it doesn't get likes, it doesn't matter. But here's the truth. Likes fade, trends die. Virality is temporary. Legacy is not. Legacy isn't built in comments or clicks. It's built in character, in consistency, in the quiet moments when nobody is watching and you choose to do the right thing anyway. It's not about how many followers you gain. It's about how many lives you influence, not just for a moment, but for a generation. When you live for likes, you play small. You let the crowd define your worth. You let opinions dictate your choices. You post, you wait, you scroll, you compare, and in the process, you forget who you are. You bend, shrink, edit, and filter, not just your photos, but your soul. You become more concerned with being seen than being solid, but you weren't born to blend in. You were born to build something that lasts. Legacy asks more of you. It asks you to zoom out, to think not in moments, but in decades. What will your name stand for when you're gone? What will people say when they speak of you? Will they remember your content or your conviction? Will they talk about what you posted or how you showed up? Playing for eternity isn't glamorous. It's not always popular. It often goes unnoticed until one day it doesn't. Legacy doesn't announce itself. It's built in the dark. It's built when you show up even when no one is clapping. When you do the work no one else wants to do. When you say no to shortcuts. When you choose purpose over applause. And you have to ask yourself, do you want to be impressive or do you want to be impactful? Because they're not the same. Impressing people gets you their attention for a moment. Impacting people changes their direction forever. The problem is, we live in a culture of now. Everyone wants the win without the work, the platform without the pain. But legacy isn't instant. It's earned through seasons of trial, loss, rebuilding, rising, failing, and rising again. It's earned when you stop performing and start becoming. When you play for eternity, your choices change. You stop asking, what feels good right now, and start asking, what echoes after I'm gone? You stop measuring success by the size of your audience and start measuring it by the weight of your truth. Because your legacy isn't about you, it's about who you lift, who you inspire, and who you empower long after you've left the room. Legacy doesn't come from noise. It comes from depth. Depth of character, depth of commitment, depth of courage. The world is full of loud people, but when the lights go off and the scroll stops and the trends shift, who are you without all of that? That's your legacy. You don't need to go viral to matter. You don't need to be known by the world to be remembered by the right ones. Your job is not to chase recognition. It's to build something real, something that speaks when you're silent, something that breathes life long after you're gone. Think of the people who changed your life, the ones who made you believe in yourself, who showed up for you, who lived in truth, even when it cost them. Were they the most followed, the most famous, or were they just honest, present, brave enough to be themselves? That's legacy. There's a difference between leaving a mark and leaving a stain. When you live only for attention, you might leave noise behind, but when you live with intention, you leave meaning. You don't just pass through this world, you shape it, you shift it, you leave behind ripples that outlive you. And here's what no one tells you. Legacy is built in the boring, in the unsexy, in the mundane. It's built when you show up to the work no one sees, when you stay true, when it would be easier to sell out, when you choose integrity over image. Legacy is built in how you treat people who can't do anything for you, in how you hold yourself when no one is clapping, in the life you live when the cameras are off. If you're constantly measuring your value by how many people are watching, you'll always feel empty. But if you live for something bigger, something rooted, something anchored in your why, then it doesn't matter if the whole world looks away. You'll still be standing. So ask yourself, what do I want to be remembered for? Not just what you accomplished, but how you made people feel. Not just what you said, but how you lived. Not just what you earned, but what you gave. This world doesn't need more people desperate to be seen. It needs more people willing to serve, willing to build, not for now, but for next. Willing to lead, not just for fame, but for the future. Legacy isn't about being liked. It's about being light for others. And the most powerful light doesn't flicker with trends. It burns with conviction. So forget the noise. Forget the metrics. Forget the pressure to perform. And focus on becoming someone so rooted, so true, so deeply committed to purpose that even when your name fades from memory, your impact doesn't. Because in the end, it won't be the likes that matter. It'll be the lives you touched, the truth you stood for, the fire you lit in others. That's the win. That's the real scoreboard. Play for that. Play for eternity. You were not born to blend in. You were not built for smallness, silence, or surrender. Everything you've heard, every word, every truth, comes down to this. You were born to win, but not by chance, by choice, by who you decide to become when it's hard, when it's lonely, when no one is watching. The world will offer you comfort, will hand you distractions, it will beg you to play safe, play small, stay quiet. But that's not your path. You don't owe the world silence. You owe it truth. You owe it you, fully awake, fully alive, and fully committed to the fight. Winning isn't about trophies or applause. It's about rising every time you fall. It's about facing your fear and walking through it. It's about building a mind that doesn't break under pressure. It's about choosing legacy over likes, purpose over popularity, impact over ego. You weren't made to wait for power. You were made to claim it. You weren't made to run from discomfort. You were made to be forged by it. You weren't made to please the crowd. You were made to lead them. So own your voice. Own your path. Own your story, especially the broken, brutal, beautiful parts of it. Because that's your fire, that's your weapon, that's your win. Don't just survive this life. Command it. Because you weren't born to settle. You weren't born to seek approval. You were born to win. Now act like it.